So we have Nancy Preston, the CEO and founder of Milk Money Kitchens. And so, as we like to do in Espresso Unicorn, and specifically on our podcast, which is Humanity Over Hues, we like to start off with kind of getting to know who our guest is. So Nancy, if you can let us know kind of who you are and some background about you.
Okay. I'm a former Texan, recovering Texan, now New Yorker. Met this wonderful lady when she was just a child, 18 years old, maybe 17 at the prep school.
Young and dumb, young.
It was like I won the lottery when I got accepted to the prep school. Really was, because it's not the background that I come from. Unlike my husband, who's an 03 grad, he was an exceptional student, an exceptional son, exceptional community leader, just grew up wanting to, he always knew what he wanted to do and where he wanted to go. And I didn't. My mother was a single mom. My father was in the Army, and he passed away suddenly right when we got to the States. And we were suddenly without a dad, but he had bought my mother a house. And she figured that as long as she can keep us in the house, we will be okay. So she worked her ass off. She took any job that she could in the back of a kitchen because she didn't speak English. She wouldn't speak English until I was like 12, and I was 8. And this went on for years, but she managed to do it. She kept us in the house, and we managed to survive some really tough financial times. And then years later, I realized, man, if there was something that she could have done with her food talent, because she had just this huge expertise in food. She was just a master. And that's why all these kitchens would hire her. She worked in bingo halls, she worked in nightclubs, she worked in restaurants, and this is way before Squid Games. This is way before people could buy kimchi in Whole Foods. We were actually, when I was 8 years old, we were making kimchi in our living room, putting in jars, and then putting it in the trunk of our car and selling it in the parking lot of Circle K in El Paso, Texas. Wow. And I'm like, I want to be anywhere but here right now. I was humiliated because I just wanted to be the normal kid, just normal American kid, taking a regular lunch to school. I don't want fried rice and kimchi in school. And I'm just like embarrassed about everything about my life. But we were never homeless. She managed to keep us together, and she managed to get us through school. And so when I graduated from high school, we didn't have money, but I had this influence with the military all around us and with my dad. So I was like, you know what? I think this is going to be a good opportunity. Let me go talk to a recruiter. And so when I joined the military, she cried. That was surprising to me because I wasn't sure if she would support that. And graduated from West Point by the skin of my teeth as an engineer officer.
Essayons.
There you go. So even the bottom of the class is building your bridges, so just keep that in mind. We deployed to West Point. Deployed to Iraq during the time, and my husband too. And so we came back to New York, and I always wanted to start a business. And there was this one night in Iraq. I think I veered off, but there's one night in Iraq where it was like we're already 9 months in to a really difficult deployment. Really difficult. A lot of losses. The strategy has just changed. If anyone remembers the name General Petraeus, the strategy just changed to winning hearts and minds. So we're like going into the villages. We're going in. We're living amongst people, and so this was really difficult. So I'm 9 months in a 15-month deployment. This one night, it's 3 a.m., I'm watching an operation going down. I was brigade staff, which is it's not glamorous, but it really sucks. And you're seeing all of your friends, company commanders and such, running these operations, and we're watching it on all these drones and on the big screens. And we're trying to send them assets, and I'm just like, after that was done, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was spent, and I thought, it was that night, I said, I don't think I want to do this anymore. There's the Army, I'm going to be working 8 hours a day, the best years of my life, and I don't think I want this to be it anymore. So after the Army, when we got back, I decided I wanted to get out. And I wanted to start a business, and I always wanted to go back to food because of my mom, like all this stuff. Like, she didn't have an education. She had survived 2 wars in Korea from the Japanese and from the Chinese, and so food really got her and got my family through some things. And I was like, you know what? This is really cool. I want to go back into food. And I do remember going back, and I would work in the back of the house, and I would sweep, and I would mop, and I would peel potatoes and wash vegetables while she was working, because after school I have to go and meet her wherever she was. She had like 12 jobs at one point. That is not a joke. So I would have to go, and I'd hide in the back of the kitchen, and I would help out. So I kind of thought that, wow, this gave us such great opportunities, then maybe this could bring opportunity to other people. And so as I was doing the numbers, which I recommend people do if you're going to start a business, do your numbers. And I realized that if I start a traditional food business, like a food truck or a cafe, like, oh shit, like there's no money, and I just should be trading one really intense lifestyle for another. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of enjoy life a little bit. So we worked on it over and over for years. And this is years after I was out of the Army, and I was working for USA, and I was working in Abu Dhabi. And finally it hit me. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so hard for people, even with assets, even with education, even with bank loans. This is so hard to start a food business. What if I make it easier for people to start food businesses?
Yeah.
What if I build facilities and rent them out to people who want to start food businesses? So it's like a WeWork for food. So instead of you having to take on all these costs, and my first location in East Village cost like $900,000. I don't have $900,000. I still don't. It was a loan. So if I can help people avoid that, having to take their entire life savings, and normally it's not their life savings, it is a whole, like several generations of life savings into a restaurant or a food business. If I can help them not have to do that, and they could just do it, pay as they go and pay as they grow, then maybe that could be a successful business. Yeah. And that could be a sustainable business. So that's what we do now. So we have 2 locations, one in East Village and one here. The heart of the business is kitchens. So we rent out commercially licensed kitchen spaces by the hour or more to people who want to start or grow their food businesses. I thought it'd be a lot of startups, and we do have a lot of startups, about 20%, but most of them are established food business, been in operation for like 5 years. And we have several of those, dozens of those types of clients, which I was really surprised about. And because they're trying to figure out how to build a life alongside of their business, because they don't want their food business being their life. So that's what we do. And so that's part of what I want to do, is I want to bring what my mom did and that struggle, and because it makes me think that if there was something like Milk Money Kitchens when my mom was struggling, then what would her legacy have been?
Right.
Like working so hard. You talked about the load that you feel when you're mom. That is so true. Because I think about all those nights I saw her sitting in the dark in the living room, and all I saw was a burnt end of a cigarette. And now I know what she was thinking about. She was thinking about the weight of all of this. And so if we can help people build small businesses in their communities, it really builds up the community, builds up the local economy, and that brings up the national economy. It's all connected. So
Absolutely.
that's where my heart is. And I want to give a shout out to Will and Jonathan, who already left, because they're not my catering staff.
Yeah.
They're my carpenters. My catering staff they bailed on this weekend, and these are my carpenters working on downstairs. So I had them come up, and so this is what entrepreneurship looks like. It's not Shark Tank. Like, that sexy stuff. You're like, yes. I'm looking like I got my stuff together. What you guys saw when you guys came in, me being an hour late, that's what entrepreneurship is. That's like the ugly, disorganized stuff. That's what it is. And so these guys came, and you just got to build a team with what you have. So I'll let you go from there.
No, that's awesome. Thank you for that answer. So I want to kind of tease apart a little bit of what you said, even though you've given us a lot, and I think we know a lot more about you now. But what I would ask you, and it's going to be twofold. You talked about your mom. Do you think you would be the same person if you had a different life, right? If dad was still there, right, and mom didn't struggle the way she did? That's the first piece. And then the second piece of this question is, how did that life transition into who you are today and the struggle that I know you go through as an entrepreneur? How do you see those ties?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in church. I haven't been in church in a long time. Or therapy, so. Okay, because my mom went through the things that she went through. She was a refugee, really young. She had survived 2 wars, and when her family immigrated they were actually half Japanese, which was shocking. I didn't find out until I was 33. And if you know anything about Japanese-Korean relations, I was shocked. I mean, I was on my ass when she told me she was half Japanese. I was like, this is, and I found out when I was 33, like I said. I didn't know how to take that, because at that point, we didn't even like Nissan cars. Like, it was like, this divide between us was really surreal. So my mother was a very harsh woman before cancer actually softened her up a bit, I'm gonna say. But she was a very harsh woman, and it's because of her life was always about survival, like real survival, through war, through famine, through bombing, and that's how she lost her parents, was from a bombing as they're crossing over what is now called Freedom Bridge in Korea. So she had all of that, and no education, and no resources, all bundled up inside, and then my father dies. Well, we were in the US for 2 years, 2 glorious years. Like, oh my God, I'm American. Like, it's really all it's cracked up to be when you come from where we came from. The last memory I have in Korea is carrying water in buckets from a well. Like, I'm doing this like 3 times a day. This is my job. And then I'm in America, even though it's El Paso, Texas. It's still pretty awesome. And then 2 years later, he suddenly passes away. And now we're in this survival mode, and all this stuff that my mom has learned through survival mode is coming out. And when I say she's a harsh woman, I mean like really harsh. And so we didn't have a relationship for years. So your question really is would I be the same person? So what I learned from her is I learned not to need positive encouragement. I don't think that's necessarily good or bad. I'm just saying I learned not to need it. I learned to be pushed. that nothing is going to be given to, like, I'm not entitled to anything. And she didn't mean that in a bad way or that I'm less of someone. It's just that if you want it, you need to work for it.
Right.
But I always believed I could get there.